What is going on, Bengals fans? Chris Daughtery here at Bengals Breakdown. Obviously, the Bengals ended up losing their first preseason game last night, but there were not, just total losses in this game. There were some positives, but there were also some negatives in this game. So we're going to be listing the winners and the losers for the Bengals' first preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into that, though, did you guys join us for our watch party last night? It was a whole lot of fun. If you guys did join us, make sure you get down there in the comment section and let everybody know that you guys were in attendance with us, and type me down in the comment section. All right, first, let's go through some of the winners here. Joe Burrow and Chase were just absolutely incredible in this game. They didn't play a lot. They only played in the first two drives, but they were just vintage, Joe Burrow and Chase. Joe Burrow playing in two drives, going 9 of 10, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. That first-team Bengals offense went right down the field and scored on their first two drives. And originally, it kind of looked like the Bengals were, going to at least play really good in this game. And then, as we'll get into later on, the defense just was not very good for the Bengals. But then Chase as well, 4 catches for 77 yards along of 36. I believe that was the touchdown as well, where he just made one man miss, scampered down the sidelines, and it was kind of funny. He was just looking back at some of those Eagles defenders, and it seemed like he was just jogging down the sidelines. But those two guys, definite winners for the Bengals' first preseason game. Definitely two guys who should be winners, all things included, and that was definitely expected, I think, for the Bengals in this first game. So I want to hear from you guys down at the pinned comment of today's video. How many touchdowns do you guys think Joe Burrow and Chase will score this season? Obviously, from Joe Burrow to Chase, so it's not like, Joe Burrow throws for 20 touchdowns, Chase catches 10 of those, not 30 in total, just between those two guys. Let me know what you guys think down at the pinned comment of today's video. All right, I thought the next winner in this game, I thought Tanner Hudson had a really, really good performance in this game. Obviously, he is not going to be the Bengals, first number 1 tight end this season. It's really, going to be Mike Gesicki, and Drew Sample was technically listed as the first tight end for the Bengals on their depth charts. But last night, Tanner Hudson really did play good for the Bengals. He had 6 catches for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns as well, along with that long of 21. And one of those touchdowns was from Ritter as well. Just a nice, beautiful pass right to the back left corner of the end zone. Caught it over his shoulder, kind of got the little toe touch in there as well. Tanner Hudson, I think this first preseason game could go a very long way for him in terms of where he can be in this Bengals depth chart. Obviously, you got Mike Gesicki, you have Drew Sample, you have Noah Fant that you signed as well. How many tight ends do the Bengals take on their 53-man roster? Thought what Tanner Hudson did last night was a really good showing for him and can definitely help him as they get to that roster cutdown time. My third winner for this game, and you needed somebody on the defensive side of the ball, I thought McKinley Jackson had a really, really good game for the Bengals yesterday. Had 4 tackles and 3 tackles for loss, but, overall, there were some other plays from McKinley Jackson as well that, he just blew up the interior of that offensive line, maybe had forced that running back more to the outside or to the other side where somebody else could make a play as well. The Bengals definitely need some of these younger guys to step up along the interior. You spent 2 top 100 picks last year on McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins Jr. You really need those guys to step up this year because last season just was not the best season for those two guys. So if you want your run defense to, just continue to get better and better and better, those two guys really got to step up. And I was really impressed with what McKinley Jackson did last night. Your fourth winner of this game, Joe Giles Harris over there at linebacker. He did have the lone turnover for the Bengals in this game. Got that interception, which, I thought was a pick six, even long before they were showing those the replays from that. But I do think he did he kind of got pushed down right at the end there. Just overall, you got a turnover in this game. That's a very positive thing. for Joe Giles Harris there. And it did, at the end of the day, lead to the Bengals going down there and scoring more points. So that's a very positive thing. Kind of got the Bengals back in this game later on. It kind of seemed like the Bengals were just totally out of it, and they were trying to, play the clock out. They were down by 17. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. It might have been late third, but somewhere around that time frame. They were down about 17 points, and I think that interception there from Joe Giles Harris really did allow the Bengals to have a little bit extra life in this preseason game and got them at least within 7 points in this game. So I want to hear from you guys. Who was your biggest winner from the Bengals' first preseason game against the Eagles? If you could choose somebody besides Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that would be a very good thing as well. Maybe some of those, younger guys that you thought played really well, because Joe and Jamar, those are the two obvious ones. But I want to hear from you guys. Who was your biggest winner in the Bengals' first preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles? Your last preseason winner that I came up here with was Dylan Fairchild at that offensive guard spot. Obviously, you took him in this past year's NFL draft. You had a need there to fill, and I thought he played really well in the limited snaps that he played with those starters along the offensive line. Played 16 snaps is what he was credited with, but he did not allow a single pressure in this game. That's definitely something. Keeping those defenders off of Joe Burrow is something that the Bengals are going to have to do. You got to be able to keep him healthy, and boosting that offensive line was a very, very good thing that the Bengals did. Some of his early PFF grades, you could take PFF with a little bit of a grain of salt, but 83.3 overall grade, 78 run block grade, 81 pass block grade. Like I said, in those 16 snaps did not allow a sack or a single pressure. Thought it was a good showing there from Dylan Fairchild. Now, with winners, there obviously also has to be losers, and my first one was the second-team offense. They just could not get anything going, while Jake Browning was in there. And really, the third team couldn't get anything going either. But just overall, Jake Browning went 16 for 14, 62 yards in this game. Also had one interception. You look at the overall stats for the Bengals offense, and, they were okay, but just the second team just really could not get anything going. Obviously had the one turnover there as well. So I think they could do a little bit better. The offensive line on the second team was not very good either, in terms of getting a push up front. So I'm going to go with the second team offense as our first loser here, which part of the second team offense as well was Andrew Raym as well, the second team center for the Bengals. I'm going to put him on this losers category as well. Ted Karras went in there. He was your starting center for this game. And Seth McLaughlin and Matt Lee did not play in this game. It sounds like they still need a little bit more time, to get ready, to get kind of ramped back up. Obviously, Seth McLaughlin coming back from that season-ending injury at Ohio State. But Andrew Raym played 49 snaps for the Bengals last night. Allowed one sack, 2 pressures. Doesn't really seem like that's really that bad. And like I said just a second ago, you can take these PFF stats with a little bit of a grain of salt, but they were not very good early on here for Raym. 41.4 overall, 53.7 run block grade, and a 28.1 pass block grade. Got to be a whole lot better than that, because you got 2 other guys behind you in Matt Lee and Seth McLaughlin that are trying to make this Bengals 53-man roster as well. So he's going to have to play a lot better, because those 2 guys, I would assume they're going to be ready in time for maybe that second preseason game, but probably that third one as well. They're going to be gunning for his spot, and there is no shot whatsoever that the Bengals are going to take 4 centers on their offensive line. So he's going to have to be a whole lot better if he wants to make this Bengals 53-man roster. So who was your biggest loser for the Bengals in last night's loss versus the Eagles? I'm going to tell you mine here in just a second, but I want to hear from you guys down in the comment section of today's video. My biggest loser of this game has to be the secondary, man. They just, you had opportunities to go out in NFL free agency and boost that secondary a little bit, whether that was the corner spot, whether that was the secondary spot, or whether that was the safety spot. And The Bengals chose not to do that, and honestly, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that they could have made throughout the offseason. These guys got cooked all night long, whether it was the first team, second team, or third team. These guys could not stop anything, it seemed like. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do in their secondary this year, because last night was just not good enough. That is not going to cut it. And look, the Bengals defense just has to be okay. They don't have to be, a top 5, really even probably a top 10 defense in the National Football League. You have one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the National Football League. And what you saw last night, I thought, from the secondary especially, but the defense, especially those starters early on, just not going to be good enough to make it, especially when you have this incredible offense led by Joe Burrow and Chase. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to Bengals Breakdown. We'll continue to be live for as many watch parties as we possibly can here on the channel. We'll also continue to put out updates and videos for you guys as well. So do not miss out. Join the community here at Bengals Breakdown. Hit that sub button. It's youtube.com/BengalsTV.